because Memorial Day means something to each person themselves from your personal experience. So I'm going to try to tell you a couple of stories about people I knew in the military and what they did. First of all, from Turner, Oregon, was a 17-year-old kid who joined the Army, went across the country on a train, got on a ship with a bunch of seasick people from a battalion, headed into World War I. If you remember that war, that was the one with trench warfare. He was an engineer. He went right straight to France, cleared the minefields and things so the troops could get ashore. He was one of the first guys ashore. And then got involved in the long battle of trench warfare where you moved back and forth. There was poisonous gas. He told me this story when I was a kid over here fishing from the rocks. He loved to fish. Well, that war was supposed to be one of the wars to end all wars. And he was stuck in the middle of it, cold, wet. And he was a bulldozer driver. And in one of the war scene, or one of the situations they were in, there was a squad of men that were trapped behind enemy lines because the line would move back and forth in the battle. Well, a couple of weeks before, he had dug a culvert in through a bunch of the areas where they had all these trenches. And he'd heard these men were trapped in behind in this squad, so he took his bulldozer and pulled up to the line where the enemy lines was and used his blade to deflect the bullets, and then act like he fell and fell off next to the culvert and crawled through the culvert. He knew about where those men were, and he was able to lead them back out and then back the bulldozer up and save that squad's life. And when I asked him, I said, well, do you feel like a hero? He said, no, I just did my job. And I think that's what most people in the military were doing. They're just doing their job. Never thought about being a hero, but the rest of the story is when he was 60 years old, he was looking through unclaimed war medals and found out that he had won a Silver Star. I have it here today. I have 14 friends that died in Vietnam, and I can't tell you a single story because none of them came home. Well, I had to make this to conclude it. I'm going to try to read something, and I never do. But I wanted to dedicate this ceremony to all the heroes, whether they have their story told or not, or just doing their job. And I want to make that dedication from the smallest harbor in the world, the one with the biggest heart. Thank you.
Our next guest speaker is the great-grandson of Chief Charlie Depot, the namesake of Depot Bay. Chief Depot has been chief of the Confederated Tribes of the Silex for the past 15 years. He has been instrumental in preserving tribal heritage in the community. I am honored to introduce Chief Chiweslaw William H. Depot, Jr.
Hello, I'm Chief Chiweslaw Depot, the great-grandson of the Depot Charlie that this town was named after. It's an honor for me to be here to carry on the journey from my great-great-grandfather, grandfather, and father. Originally, we were from the Rogue River down in southern Oregon. And my great-grandfather was a chief down there in the Tututni tribe. And around 1868, they moved our tribe up to Siletz and put us there with 27 other tribes. And my great-grandfather, before this highway was built here, there was a railroad that come down from Corvallis over by Toledo. And my great-grandfather used to always be there when that train would come in and make sure that all the supplies were given to the Indians that were at Siletz. And how he got his name, his real Indian name was Chewesclaw, where they named me after him when they presented the war bonnet on me. And when he was always at that railroad depot there, and when they gave him the white man name, they walked up to him and said, "Your name's Depot," because he was always there, I guess. And originally it was spelled D-E-P-O-T, but my grandfather went to Carlisle College, and he didn't like the way that spelling looked, so he had it changed to D-E-P-O-E. And I just want to say that how honored it is for me to come down here. I live up in Seattle, where I've lived all my life, and I want to tell everybody how great it is for me to come down here. It's like I have a home away from home. And anyway, everybody have a safe drive home, and we'll see you next year. Oh.
Memorial Day, a time to remember, a time to reacquaint yourself with history. Memorial Day was first observed 146 years ago to honor those who had fallen during the Civil War. Over 600,000 were killed, and they were all Americans. 100 years ago, the Royal British ship Titanic struck an iceberg and was lost, taking with her 1,522 persons. The following year, the United States Coast Guard started the International Ice Patrol, and not one vessel that has heeded the warning of the Coast Guard's Ice Patrol has struck an iceberg since that date. The history of the United States Coast Guard along our coast has been with unwavering dedication to the saving of life and property, but not without loss to the Coast Guard. Just Oregon and Washington alone, over the last 70 years, over 20 surfmen or their crew have been lost at sea. I can remember the 36-foot motor lifeboat, the 44-foot motor lifeboat, there was a 52-foot motor lifeboat, and now the 47-foot motor lifeboat. The lifeboats are made to roll completely over and right themselves in the heaviest of breaking seas. But to the crew, you are strapped in, outside, underwater, and holding your breath. And oh, how you wanted just one breath of air, praying that the boat would right itself with you standing there. Yes, it happens ever so often. So next time you're with a Coast Guard man or woman, say thank you. They deserve it. I'd like to tell you one little story. It is sad, but also courageous. The Columbia River, over 1,000 small boats out across the entrance. The weather turns bad. Several boats capsize. Many boats are disabled. And the Coast Guard saved a lot of lives that day, but 3 did not make it. The local funeral parlor was closed, So we took him to the station and we placed him in the equipment building. Then I get a call from a lady. There was no ID on these people. It had been stripped clean by the turbulent ocean, so we could not make any identifications. This lady calls me and she says her husband is overdue, and the boat she describes is one that was lost. I tell her of our situation, and short time later she comes to the station, bringing with her her 2 daughters, 10 and 12 years old. I talk with her for a while, and then I take her to the equipment building. The little girls stay outside with my crew, and I take her inside. And the first one I uncover is her husband. And she says, "Oh my God, I've lost everything." And the tears run down her cheeks. The little girls hearing their mother start to cry. And she said, "My girls." And she stepped outside. With the little girls hugging their mother and their tears flowing down their cheeks, she places her hand on my shoulder. And she says, "I feel so sorry for you." I say, "Lady, I do not understand." And she says, "I only have to go through this once. You must have to go through it every week." Wow, what a lady. She had just lost her husband, and yet she can find compassion for myself and my crew. Then the SAR bell hits, and we're off on the next case. But I'll never forget that day, or those words, "I feel so sorry for you." Yes, Memorial Day is a time to remember, but it's also a time to honor our country and its flag. Red Skelton Day. What great timing.